so now that we have all of our properties, we're gonna go ahead and just create getters and setters and constructors for those. So I think if I do Alt insert, then I can do getters and setters, and we want to do getters and setters for everything. Click OK. All right, so we have all the getters and setters. Okay, and we need a default constructor. So I'm gonna do Alt insert in constructor. We need the one constructor with all the parameters. So we're gonna select everything again and click OK. And we need a default constructor. So I can just copy this one and paste it down and remove all of this and everything, because this is going to be the default constructor so that we can create a null object. Okay, so now once we have that, we can mark this class as a JPA entity. So for that, we need to add some annotation. So the first one is going to be add entity, and that's coming from Java Persistence API right here. So entity, and we also need to mark this private user ID as the primary key. So to do that, we have to do add ID. So that's also coming from Java Persistence API, and let's add some generated value for this. And we want the strategy to be, let's do generation type auto. We can do identity. I mean, in this situation, it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna do auto here. So one last thing I want to add on this, because what we're doing right now, we're just mapping this class as an actual database, right? Well, not the actual database, but as a table in the database. So this is going to be representing a table in a database for a specific user. And that's the reason I have to do, let's make this column because I need to add some specification on it. So let's do nullable false. And I also want to do updatable false. Okay, so, very self-explanatory. Entity, which is gonna convert this into a table in a database, and ID is going to make this ID a primary key, and it's gonna be generated automatically. So it's just gonna, I don't know the actual algorithm behind this, but it's just gonna create some random number automatically. And I want this column, which is gonna be this column in the actual database table, to be not updatable and not nullable. So this can never be null, and you can never update it. So that makes it a good, strong primary key. And I think that's all we have to do for now for the actual user class. And that's going to be like the driving entity for the entire application. So, all right, let's see, making sure I'm not forgetting anything. So, okay, we have all of our properties. Default constructor with all the parameters, and all of our getters and all of our setters. Okay, so that should be it. So once we run the application, JP is gonna pick up on this annotation, and it's gonna map this class into a database with all of those fields as the actual database role, and that's what we want. And again, if you don't know JPA, this course is not gonna cover it. JPA is kind of a topic of itself, but that's what this is doing. And I'm assuming if you're taking this course, then at least you're familiar with JPA. But that's what we just did here. We just mapped this class user as a table in a database.